It is 10 minutes past 6 in the evening. You rinse the last glass and set it upside down on the dish rack. You have made a decision, a careful, sensible decision, and you made it weeks ago, after too many nights of shuffling to the bathroom at 2 in the morning. You decided nothing to drink after 6. The sleep improved almost immediately. Your doctor would probably approve. The kitchen is quiet. The dishwasher hums. You move toward the living room with a sense of something small but real, the satisfaction of a person who has taken charge of their own health, who has done the research, who is not waiting for someone to tell them what to do. You go to bed at your usual time. You do not know, and there is no reason you should, that in the hours between now and 5 in the morning, something is changing in your bloodstream. Quietly, without pain, without warning of any kind. Hold on the image of a dark bedroom. Clock reads 5:03 a.m. Ambulance lights. Here is what most people have never been told. If you restrict fluids in the evening, and millions of adults over 60 do exactly this, I want you to understand something before we go any further. You were not wrong to try it. You were not careless. You were not ignoring your health. You were responding to a real problem: interrupted sleep, nocturia, nighttime disruption that affects your rest, your mood, your energy, your heart. And someone, somewhere, maybe a friend, maybe something you read, told you that cutting off fluids after 6 would help. And it did help. You slept better. That is not ignorance. That is a person doing the best they can with incomplete information. Look, I want to be honest with you. I hear some version of this conversation every single week. And the thing that frustrates me is not the patients who are doing this. It's that nobody ever sat down and explained the other side of that equation. And that is a gap that has consequences. The enemy here is not you. The enemy is never you. The enemy is the information that did not reach you. And today, we are going to fix that. I want to tell you about a woman I will call Dorothy. Dorothy was 68 years old. She was a retired elementary school teacher from Ohio. She had been taking lisinopril for her blood pressure for 3 years, and it was working. Her numbers were controlled, her last checkup had gone well, her doctor was satisfied. Dorothy was careful. Dorothy was disciplined. Dorothy did everything the right way. Several months before what happened, she had started restricting her evening fluids. She had read about it. It had helped. She was sleeping through the night for the first time in years, and she was proud of herself, as she should have been. Dorothy went to bed on a Wednesday evening feeling fine. She was found by her daughter at 5:15 in the morning, unresponsive on her left side. The paramedics arrived within 8 minutes. The doctors at the hospital confirmed what the scan showed. A clot had formed in her cerebral artery during sleep, an ischemic stroke, and it had happened while Dorothy was completely unconscious in the early hours of the morning when nobody could have intervened. Dorothy survived. She spent 11 weeks in rehabilitation. Her speech came back. Most of her mobility came back. But here is what I need you to hold on to right now. Dorothy was doing what she had been told was good for her. She was following a protocol she had assembled herself with care and effort, because the appointment that might have covered this, that appointment never happened. We will come back to Dorothy, but first I need you to understand exactly what happened inside her body that night, because it is happening in bodies across this country, right now, tonight. A standard clinical appointment allows 8 to 12 minutes. In that window, your doctor is managing your medications, reviewing your labs, addressing the complaint that brought you in, and documenting everything for your record. That is not negligence. That is the structure of the system they are working inside. What that structure does not allow time for is a conversation about what happens to the blood inside your veins over a 12-hour period of restricted hydration during sleep. It does not allow time for a conversation about the specific window between 2 and 6 in the morning, when your cardiovascular system is under a set of conditions your doctor knows about and has almost certainly never had the chance to explain to you. The prescription was the beginning of the conversation. This video is the rest of it. Now, the most obvious conclusion you might have reached is this: just drink more water. Stay hydrated all day, and the evening restriction won't matter. You're topped up. You're fine. I understand why that makes sense, and I want to give it the credit it deserves. Hydration throughout the day absolutely matters, and I'm going to give you a specific protocol in a few minutes that includes exactly that. But here is what that conclusion misses. Your blood does not maintain its daytime composition through the night based on what you drank at lunch. The body continues to lose fluid throughout the hours of sleep, through respiration, through the skin, through ongoing metabolic processes. A person who is 8 hours into sleep has lost somewhere between 16 and 28 ounces of fluid from their bloodstream without replacing any of it. And when you have front-loaded that deficit by restricting intake from 6 p.m. onward, the arithmetic of your blood viscosity by 4 in the morning becomes something very different from what it was when you fell asleep. I'm going to pause here because I think this is the part where people hear hydration, and they think, okay, I know about hydration, I drink enough water. And I understand that instinct. But what I'm going to show you in the next few minutes is that this is not a general hydration conversation. This is a specific, timed cardiovascular mechanism, and the timing is everything. Daytime water does not protect your blood at 5 in the morning. That is the gap. That is what we are here to close. My name is Dr. Tiera Khan, and I work with adults over 60 who are managing cardiovascular conditions, blood pressure medications, and the very real, very common challenge of getting quality sleep without creating a new risk in the process. Medical disclaimer: everything in this video is for educational purposes only. It is not a substitute for individualized medical advice from your own physician. If you are on blood pressure medication, blood thinners, diuretics, or any medication that affects kidney function or fluid balance, please discuss any changes to your hydration habits with your doctor before making them. What I am sharing today is based on published cardiovascular and hematological research. I will name the journals, but your situation is specific to you, and your doctor needs to be part of this conversation. What I am going to walk you through today is 5 specific things that happen inside your body when you restrict evening fluids. 5 mechanisms, starting from the moment you set down that last glass and ending at the window of maximum risk in the early morning hours. The 5th one is the one that most directly explains what happened to Dorothy, and it is the one that tells you exactly what to do tonight. If you are taking any medication for blood pressure, heart rhythm, cholesterol, or diabetes, this video was made for you. Let's get into it. The first thing that happens when you stop drinking in the evening is the most important one to understand, because everything else follows from it. You cannot feel it. That is the cruelest part of this. There is no pain, no pressure, no signal from your body that anything has changed. You feel the same going to bed as you did at dinner. But inside your bloodstream, something measurable has already begun. The medical term for what is happening is hemoconcentration. Plain language, your blood is becoming more concentrated, more dense, thicker than it was a few hours ago, because the water that was keeping it fluid is being used up by your body's overnight processes and is not being replaced. Think of it like this. Think of your blood like a river in the middle of summer. In the morning, after a full night of hydration, it is flowing, wide, moving, unhurried. When you restrict fluids from 6 in the evening and sleep for 8 hours without a single drop, that river starts to slow. It gets narrower. It gets heavier. By the time the clock reaches 4 or 5 in the morning, it is not the same river it was when you went to bed. Tonight's rule: drink 6 to 8 ounces of water at your evening meal. Not after, not later, at the meal. This is not the fluid that keeps you up at night. This is the fluid that slows the thickening process during the first hours of sleep, when your blood is most vulnerable. I want to make sure you stay with me for the next 4 things, because thing 2 is where the risk becomes specific, and it involves something your medication is already doing to your body while you sleep. If you are taking a diuretic, a water pill, or a medication like lisinopril, hydrochlorothiazide, or furosemide for your blood pressure or your heart, you need to pay attention here, because this changes your picture completely. Diuretics work by telling your kidneys to pull more fluid from your bloodstream and send it out of your body as urine. That is how they lower blood pressure. That is why they were prescribed. During the day, when you are awake and drinking, your body can balance that equation without trouble. At night, when you are not drinking, that equation tips. The medical term is diuretic-induced volume depletion. Plain language, your medication is still pulling fluid from your blood. Your blood is already thickening from the overnight deficit, and now you have 2 forces working in the same direction at the same time. Think of it like a pump trying to move water through a pipe that is getting narrower. The pump is still running. The pipe is still narrowing. Something, eventually, has to give. If you take a diuretic, ask your doctor specifically about the timing of your last dose in relation to sleep. For many patients on once-daily medications, there is a strategic conversation to be had about whether that timing is optimized for overnight safety. Do not change it on your own, but do have that conversation. Before I go to the next one, if you are on a blood pressure medication right now, type the name of it in the comments. I read them. And I want to know which medications my audience is actually managing, because that shapes what I cover next. Type it right now. This is the one most people do not know, and it is the one that, when I explain it, makes everything else make sense. Between roughly 3 and 6 in the morning, your body begins preparing to wake up. Your nervous system shifts. Your heart rate begins to rise. Your blood pressure begins to climb. Naturally, normally, as part of the wake cycle. This is called the cortisol awakening response, and it is a healthy biological process. What makes it dangerous is the combination. Your blood is at its thickest because you have been sleeping for hours without fluid. Your blood pressure is rising. Your heart is working harder. And the cardiovascular system, already working against thickened blood, is now being asked to do more. Researchers at the Journal of the American Medical Association have documented that the risk of ischemic stroke is measurably higher in the early morning hours than at any other time of day. This is not coincidence. It is the biology of that exact moment. Thicker blood, rising pressure, rising demand, and the coronary arteries doing their best to keep up. Think of it like rush hour traffic on a highway that is already partially closed. The cars are still coming, more of them than before, and the road they have to travel is narrower than it was. Something has to slow down. Something has to wait. And sometimes, something stops. This is why the protocol I am giving you tonight is not just about drinking more water. It is about the timing of that water, specifically the 6 to 8 ounces within 30 minutes of waking, which you will hear in the rules section, coming up in a few minutes. If this is new information for you, and I know for many of you it is, please subscribe right now, because every video I publish on this channel is built around exactly this kind of gap. The thing your doctor knows, and the thing your appointment didn't have time to cover. Your blood contains billions of small cells called platelets. Their job is to clump together when there is a cut, a wound, a breach, to form a clot and stop the bleeding. That is a life-saving function. But platelets respond to the conditions around them, including how concentrated the blood is. When your blood thickens overnight, from dehydration, from diuretics, from the hours of not drinking, your platelets become more active. The medical term for this is platelet aggregation. Plain language, they become stickier. They are more likely to clump together even when there is nothing to clot. And when platelets clump in the wrong place, in a small cerebral artery, In a coronary artery, they can create exactly the kind of obstruction that causes a stroke or a heart attack. Researchers at the journal Stroke have found that platelet aggregation follows a circadian rhythm. It peaks in the early morning hours. Add dehydration to that peak, and you have created the maximum possible condition for clot formation, in the window when your cardiovascular system is already under the most demand. Think of it like this. Normally, your platelets are like small, round magnets, slightly repelling each other, floating freely in the current. When the fluid around them decreases and the concentration increases, those magnets start to attract. One finds another, then three. Then you have a cluster where a cluster should not be. This is why aspirin therapy, for those already prescribed low-dose aspirin by their physician, should be taken at a consistent time, and why your doctor may have specific guidance about that timing in relation to the early morning cardiovascular window. If you have never had this conversation with your doctor, write it down for your next appointment. I want to be honest with you about something. This is the point in this conversation where, in a clinical setting, I would slow down. Because what I just described is not scary for the sake of being scary. It is the actual sequence of events that led to what happened to Dorothy. And I think you deserve to understand it completely, not just be warned about it. So stay with me. The last mechanism is the one I find most remarkable, and it is the one that makes me genuinely angry that it is not part of every conversation about sleep health for adults over 60. Your brain has a waste clearance system that operates almost exclusively during sleep. The medical term is the glymphatic system. Plain language, while you sleep, your brain flushes out the metabolic waste products that accumulate during a day of thinking, processing, and functioning. It is, in the most literal sense, your brain cleaning itself. This process requires fluid. It runs on the cerebrospinal fluid that circulates through the brain tissue. When you are significantly dehydrated during sleep, this system runs inefficiently. The waste products move more slowly. The circulation is sluggish, and the tissues that need to be bathed in clean circulating fluid are sitting, instead, in thickened, concentrated, reduced fluid. Think of it like the overnight cleaning crew in a large building. They need water pressure to do their job, to run the mops, to fill the buckets, to flush the systems. When the pressure drops, the cleaning is incomplete, and the next morning, the building is not what it should be. For adults over 60 who are already at elevated risk for cerebrovascular events, an underperforming glymphatic system is not a theoretical concern. Research published in the journal Nature Neuroscience has connected disruption to this overnight clearance function with increased risk for the very kind of small vessel damage that precedes both stroke and cognitive decline. The protective step here is the one I am going to give you in the rules section. The specific split hydration protocol that supports overnight brain function without sending you to the bathroom 3 times between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. It is more precise than drink more water, and it is something you can start tonight. Now let me give you the 4 rules that turn everything I just explained into a protocol you can actually use. Your body processes fluid most efficiently when it comes with food. Drinking water at dinner, 6 to 8 ounces at the table, gives your bloodstream a hydration buffer that begins working during the critical first hours of sleep. This is non-negotiable, and it is the most immediately protective thing on this list. The early morning hours are the highest risk window. The moment you wake, your blood is at its thickest, your platelet aggregation is at its peak, and your cardiovascular demand is beginning to rise. 6 to 8 ounces of room temperature water within 30 minutes of waking begins to redilute the blood, reduce platelet stickiness, and give your cardiovascular system the fluid margin it needs to function safely. Before coffee, before breakfast, before anything else, water first. This is not something you adjust on your own, but it is something you bring to your next appointment and ask directly. Given my fluid restriction habits at night, Is my diuretic timing optimized to avoid overnight volume depletion? That question, asked of your doctor, opens a conversation that could matter. Write it down. Bring it. The goal of fluid restriction is to reduce nocturia, the nighttime bathroom trips. But the cutoff point matters enormously. For most adults over 60 without significant kidney disease or heart failure complications, stopping fluids at 9 p.m., not 6 p.m., allows a 3-hour absorption window before sleep and substantially reduces the overnight dehydration deficit. 6 p.m. cutoffs were never designed for cardiovascular health. They were designed for convenience. Shift it by 3 hours, and you may find the same reduction in nocturia with a dramatically different risk profile. Talk to your doctor about this adjustment. MID is a small change with a large potential benefit. Let me come back to Dorothy now, because I think about her a lot, and I think about all the Dorothys, the careful, responsible, self-educated people who did something reasonable and paid a price they should never have had to pay. Dorothy's daughter brought her to see me several months after the rehabilitation was complete. Dorothy was walking well by then. Her speech had returned. She was reading again, which had been the thing that frightened her most when she lost it. We talked for a long time about what had happened, about the fluid restriction, about the lisinopril, about the early morning hours and the window she had not known existed. Dorothy listened the way she had probably listened to every lesson she had ever given, with her full attention, taking it in. At the end of the conversation, she said something that I have thought about many times since. She said, "I was so proud of myself for sleeping through the night. I had no idea I was making a trade." That is what I want to give you today. Not fear, not alarm for its own sake. I want to give you the information that lets you make a different trade, one where the sleep is better and the risk is lower, because you know what the risk actually was. That is what Dorothy deserved to know. That is what you deserve to know. That is what I want for you. I want you to imagine waking up tomorrow morning and knowing, not hoping, knowing that what you did the night before was actually protecting you while you slept. That the glass of water at dinner, the routine you adjusted, the conversation you decided to have with your doctor, that those things were working for you in the hours when you were unconscious and trusting your body to keep you safe. That is what this information can give you. Not just reassurance, actual biological protection built into a routine that is already yours. In the comments below, I want you to tell me, do you restrict fluids in the evening? Type yes if you do. I read every comment on this channel, and I want to know how many people are watching this who recognize their own evenings in Dorothy's story. Now, please share this video with every person over 60 in your life who is managing their sleep and their blood pressure at the same time. You do not know whose Wednesday night this changes. You do not know whose stroke this prevents. Share it the way Dorothy's daughter would have shared it if she had seen it 6 months before that morning. You might give someone the conversation their last appointment didn't have time for. In my next video, I'm covering something that millions of adults over 60 do every single morning, within the first hour of waking, that is quietly working against their blood pressure medication before the first dose has even had time to peak. You are going to want to see that before tonight. This is Dr. Tiera Khan. Protect your nights. I'll see you in the next one.